Hi, and welcome to MindShifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce. I'm Jeanie Ryce, your co-host, along with Dr. Tim Hayes, and we welcome you to the show. Today is Wednesday, February the 10th, 2016, and our call-in number is 646-200-4169. Press 1, and that puts you in queue to talk to us, and we would love to hear your comments and your questions, because that makes this your show. And those of you trying to get into the chat room, give me just a minute. I am going to reboot my computer. I don't know if it's my computer or whether it's Blog Talk, but the chat room's not opening up. So give me just a few minutes, and I will have it up. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, dear heart. My appreciation for that, and appreciation to Dr. Tim for yesterday doing both parts of the show, the chat room and the show itself, as I shuttle people to the airport. And last person's actually getting in their car as we speak. We just finished doing an orange flush. Those who've been to an intensive, you know that one of the things that we'll do is we'll put together, and it sounds weird, but it is delicious. Most people, wow, I didn't think I'd like this. Orange juice, olive oil, and fresh garlic. And what it does is it tends to get the gallbladder and the liver to do a little dump and flush out and give a chance to get ahead of the game. So we're actually drinking that. Just squeeze some fresh orange juice and Jeanie cut some fresh garlic and a little bit of high quality olive oil, and we're flushing. So we're honored that you're with us. One more time, much appreciation. Today is Addiction Healing Wednesday, until we come up with a better name for it, and our conversation is to head in the direction of learning to be fully responsible for every energy that we hold within our structures, and if there's an energy that's less than love, then learning how to heal those energies that are less than love, so that we get to truly live as real, honest-to-goodness human beings, really living as the truth of who we were designed to be. And if you've ever held a newborn child, you know exactly what you were designed to be. You know exactly what you were designed to live as. And so that's the game. How do you get back to living as the awesome active presence of love that you were designed to live as? And so here we are, moving forward and looking at how the tendency to live in denial, and we have a specific definition. I think it's a little different than most AA definitions of denial, and that is when I simply think or speak as though something outside of me is the cause of something inside of me, I'm living in denial. And when I live in that state of denial, then whatever the real cause is of what's going on inside of me, I have to hide from myself. So I literally dissociate from content in my mind. And of course, since my mind is functioning through my body, the content I've dissociated from creates a disturbance in my body. When that energy moves in me, what happens is that energy creates the world that I see. It creates the world of pictures that my mind generates. And when you recognize that we each are continuously generating our own realities, that is pictures painted on the inside of our eyeballs. The world has taught us that we're looking out through these eyeballs. We have two windows on the world. Nothing could be further from the truth. We generate reality. We don't record reality, says the CIA in the research on perception. And of course, we've been teaching that for decades. And so when I realize that I'm painting a picture on the inside of my eyeballs, all of a sudden the whole game reverses, because when people look at the picture on their eyeballs and they think it's actually out there, then they think that what's out there is causing pain in here. And the pain in here is the cause of the pictures. It's the exact reverse. So pain is never caused by the picture in your head. Pain is caused by the energy held in your tissue, and that is a disease, and the cause, I would offer, of all disease. So the world of pictures is a result of your disease moving in you. Your disease is not a result of the pictures. And when you get that, then you move out of denial and dissociation. You stop trying to pretend that it's all everybody else's fault, and you get to own what's happening inside of you, and you get to change it. We just finished doing 9 days of codependence to interdependence and just saw some awesome shifts in people. One young lady who came here with MS, is fairly difficult for her to move. About the 8th day, came skipping down. We've got a 2-story home we're doing this workshop in that we've rented in Orlando, and she came skipping down the steps and shared that she hadn't skipped like that since she was a teenager. And body loosening up and letting go of those processes when we start to learn forgiveness. And forgiveness not being the game of I let you off the hook for what's happening inside of me, but I come out of my denial, I come out of my dissociation, I recognize my disease, the energy that's there, and I literally forgive as to that energy. I remove that energy from my structure, and I get free of it. Pretty awesome process. And so, Dr. Tim, are you out there, sir?
I am here.
Well, I wish I could reach through the phone and hand you a glass of our garlic, olive oil, orange juice, but I can't, so we'll just have a sip for you. And what's exciting in your world? Anything on your mind today, especially about addiction healing?
Well, I think, one of the things that I think of when I think about addiction and healing is how I gave a talk not too long ago where I introduced myself as the bearer of bad news, and I was going to tell people that they had an addiction they didn't know they had. And the addiction they didn't know they had from that talk was that we're all addicted to the familiar. And I just finished a session with some people who were very, very addicted to the familiar and angry in defending their right to hold on to the very painful realities that were causing the problems that they're coming to me to ask for help with. So if I get addicted to what I already know, it's really not possible for me to change and grow. Oh, there's something just rhymed. I hope that doesn't become a pattern.
You're a poet and don't know it, eh?
Yeah, so really the theme for the last few days has been people who are addicted to the familiar. They're addicted to the pattern they know, and they're addicted to the idea that they're going to prove they're right and everybody else is wrong. So,
well, and it's interesting if you look at that word, familiar means of the family. Family dynamics, power person dynamics, it just plays out generation after generation until we wake up from it, go all the way back to, and this I think just fits perfectly with what you just said, is, that story of the Jews wandering in the desert for 40 years, and people thinking that's a story about a hot, sandy place, when it's really a metaphor for most people being addicted to the family, to the familiar, to the patterns of the power person, the hostility, and fear. And you look at that story and, how does a bright group of people like this get lost in a 30 square mile area for 40 years? It just makes no sense. But when you look at the solution that was offered in the scriptures, it says you got to deal with the family. The old generations have to die off, which doesn't mean everybody in old physical bodies has to physically go. The root of the word generation is generate, means cause. The old causes in the mind that are family patterns born and bred in us genetically and then environmentally reinforced all have to be faced and forgiven. And it's quite a task. And when you bring that truth to somebody and their stress goes up, you really do have to know when to duck and when to hold the mirror up, don't you, Tim?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I had somebody yell at me again in the office today. And
really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's, well, you know what it's like when somebody is adamant about holding on to their stuff and at the same time adamant that their situation has to change right now. That's a pressure cooker with no safety valve. The more I
stomp change my right now with no input from them.
Right. The more I stomp my feet and demand that things change while I absolutely adamantly refuse that I change, the more pressure I create within myself, and it's got to come out somewhere.
Absolutely. Well, Jeanie tells me that Dr. Andraki's on the line, so let's see if he has any thoughts about this. Stephen, how are you, sir? Are you there, Stephen? Is your mute button on, or are we not connected? Okay, you should be there now.
Okay.
Hey, we got you.
I have an interesting story to share, and I think that it's a good place to start, and there's something that we might be able to direct in the future of steps that people can take to learn the program and to go stepwise through it, because the story unfolds that I had a young woman who came in yesterday who wanted to stop shooting IV heroin. And the story goes that she started using pills in her teens, like almost all the stories are. And then she graduated to heroin, and then eventually it's a crazy thought for people who don't use it. For people who use it, just describing it will invoke the brain cells for craving it even more. That's something that we may want to touch on at some other point. So you get powdered heroin, and you dissolve it in a liquid, usually water, heated up. You draw it up in a syringe and you put it in your vein, and it gives you fleeting ecstasy, of course, with the ramifications of such that you come down, and then you have to do it again. Now, she had been through rehab 4 times at the cost of hundreds of thousands of dollars and months of her life going through the step process. But that wasn't enough for her, because she came in and wanted to do it again. This time she was more committed to it. She had started the process by using medication-assisted detoxification, medication-assisted therapy, with using an opiate to keep you from craving, and keep you from using, and keep you involved in the program, because they have to keep coming in to see me to get the medicine, and if they're using drugs, we can find out. And it's their commitment, obviously, is not there. So it gives them the extra advantage of needing to be involved in the program. So she had started this herself, and I asked her, what is different this time? She says, well, I've made the decision this time that I've got to stop this. And so that was a good place to start for her, and of course, I told her, we support you in your desire to stop using this, but this is what you're going to have to do. And I think at some point that we may want to choose a Wednesday to look at that, making the decision to stop doing what you're doing. And I think that could take up an hour. I think it could take up many hours with people who can call up and to give their experience of making that decision and what made an impact into their life. Now, I always tell people it's not their fault that they are using the drug or the substance or whatever it is, that this is the best way that they've learned how to deal with their issues and problems, but they've got to do something about those issues and problems, so it's not going to go away. It's still going to be there. And for me, Michael, you've got a different thought. If I am presented a delicious dish of meat, I have temptation. My brain is telling me that looks good for you. Your nose would upturn, and you say, I'm not going to have this. We have different interests. We have different chemical releases in our brains. We have different thoughts, different patterns. And some people, it's use of drugs, and it's very powerful, because I'm not going to go out and rob somebody, and I'm not going to go out and break into a house and take copper out and take it to a recycler to go and buy a pound of ground sirloin. But, of course, when you have the circuitry in your brain saying that you need to have drugs or heroin, you will do anything. You will risk going to jail. You will steal from your parents. You will do whatever you need to do to get that. So there's patterns in the brains that have got to change, and making the decision to come in and saying, I want to change, and taking that first step, I think is needing a full and process and something that can go onto the website in the future as taking the first step to saying, that you are going to change and what you need to do that. Now, I know that you do this 5 days a week. I know you do it in intensives, and believe me, I advocate listening to the series of radio shows that are on Start Here Now. I recommend doing the PowerPoint. I recommend Chapter 24. We do worksheets, but it takes a little bit more commitment for somebody who is making the decision to start here now with addiction, to hang on to the program and to listen to people who've gone through that and with success stories and encouragement and laying out a really nice roadmap for them to get them the best results.
I think that's a fabulous idea.
And I think that as we move through this, that we can construct something giving the people the hope and opportunity to regain their humanness, as you always describe it, back, and get some amazing successes. So that being said, I'll just finish up by letting everybody know that after I complete this crazy encounter of saying, this is what I can do, this is what you need to do. If you don't participate, I can't help you. If you don't stop using drugs, I can't help you. You're going to have to go do something else. I always ask them, have you held a newborn baby? I have to connect them with something that they obviously have separated themselves from, the experience of love. And I say, I know who you are. I know what your potentials are. I have to look at them in their eyes and tell them, I know who you are, and you're not this person. And have you held a newborn baby? And starting with something that they may not have experienced, of course, their God, their whole direction in life is getting their next dose of narcotic. They have got to start to feel something. And that is such an amazing transition to get that back in their life. I think that's deserving of some personal accounts, and some people have had drug addictions. Now, I'm going to admit that I don't have an issue with narcotics or with drugs. But you have, if I have a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream in the refrigerator or in the freezer, I'm probably going to eat that. We all have issues in our life that we have restraint type of issues, and I'm not beyond my own problems, and so I can speak from somebody who has issues, but not from a drug issue or not from the drug-seeking issues. And I think that if we have people who are willing to call up and to express this and to say the steps that they went through, the alcoholics, the steps that they went through, I think that might be empowering for people to know that there is a choice and an option. Because for some people, this is a big jump, because we talk a little bit about the Bible. We talk about the words of Yeshua. We talk about things that they might construe as being brainwashing, which, of course, is the exact opposite. We are washing their brains, but they're doing it themselves. We're giving them the opportunity to take out what doesn't belong, not to believe in anything other than themselves, which is something that they have got to rationalize in their mind, that we're not telling them to do anything besides take out what doesn't belong. And to get past that first hurdle of who they are, and what they can become, and identifying with their true source, I think is going to be powerful for people in the future to listen to, because then I can direct them, say, listen to the shows on addiction, this one as a stepwise process, or doing the step 1, step 2, whatever. Deriving a set of your own steps, and we can always include the 12-step program. I think that that's an option. I encourage people, of course, I've said this before, you want to use 12 steps and the forgiveness program, that's fine. Do whatever you need to do. If you use 12 steps and finding a sponsor and going to meetings every day is working for you, then you've got to do that. But whatever it is, you must be engaged in some sort of program. Then I think we give a direction for people who are truly wanting to stop their addiction process, the easy steps to go through, because the temptation is always there. When they're not listening to the radio show, when they're not doing the work, and not doing their worksheets, the temptation still exists, because indeed this young woman, I asked them about their past, and their father's in jail, and she doesn't talk to her mother, and et cetera. It's usually the same type of issues, abusive relationships and things like this. And it's really hard to get somebody who has that experience to say all of a sudden that they can become this person, they have to experience it. They have to start someplace and be willing to move through it. So I think all those steps, I think, and you express it on a daily basis, but to get to something concise and in a organized process, I think that we can really touch people, and I think that it'd be awesome to be able to hear people who have had addiction issues, to be able to express how they move through it slowly or fast. Some people get it very slow, and that's but they still continue to participate, and some people start to click right away. But I think we got to hear all stories about people who understand that they are in control of of themselves, and part of their mind wants to do it, while part of their mind doesn't want to do it. And I just also want to say to Dr. Tim Case that I enjoy listening to his perspective, and yesterday he did a very good job explaining the conscious and subconscious mind and the way our mind works. And I can bring and unfold into all sorts of neurobiology and all of the dopamine releasing parts of the brain and how all of this works. But basically, the fact is that our brains want to change how our brains work. And how do we do that for anything? Is that we've got to put another program into our brain, and it starts with some sort of tangible experience, some sort of tangible feeling. And that, I don't know of anything else. I asked them, is there anything that's more important? Is there anything that's more centering? Is there anything more goal that you can experience? Is it desire for wealth? Is it desire for possessions? Is it desire for more sex, more drugs? What gets you to the point of finding out who you are and your possibilities? And there, of course, we all know there's nothing more than love. So bringing love into their mind and reconnecting to who they really are gives them a place to start. But that's maybe a difficult point for a lot of people who've had a lot of abuse. And I know, Michael, you've done this thousands and thousands of times, but I have people who are struggling who need to find this and to take the baby steps to reconnect to that experience. So only because of Michael and Dr. Tim and Jeanie and all the people that I've learned from, all the patients and people that I've worked with, have I been able to get to the point that I can express this and I can teach this and I can offer this. And so thanks to all of you and thanks to my patients who are willing to come in and take the time to do the work that I continue to do my work. But when it's said and done, there are less than 10% of people who stay in the program, who stay more than one or two visits, because no matter how you want to stop it and how much you need to stop it or have to stop it, it still takes that level of commitment.
Definitely, big time, and I think that would be a great show to create. Now, I can remember a time, Stephen, if you'd have threatened to take away my Haagen-Dazs, there'd have been trouble. But I've passed that now, so thank you.
I still struggle with that, and it's the mind. It's the mind telling us things that we have got to do this. And if it's there, some people are going to use it. I had 2 tangerines last night, and I didn't save one for later. I ate both of them at once. That's my brain telling me it's my thoughts in my mind of how delicious it is, that it's available, et cetera, et cetera. It's my mind saying, I'm going to eat both of those now instead of savoring them and letting them spread out for an hour or for saving one for later. It's our mind playing a trick on us, just like it is for drugs.
Right. Well, I think that's a great idea, and we'll go to work on crafting a plan for that show. I'll send it to you. We'll send it to Dr. Tim. Actually, Gail is here at the Codependence Intensive, so we'll probably get some input from her, and we'll start crafting that and, create a really succinct show that anybody can listen to, and in 1 hour get hope and inspiration for moving forward. And I'm sure we've got several people who'd be happy to call in and share and support it. I know over the years, Stephen, I've heard from several people that you're working with who just are thankful for the gift that you give them of support and then the tool of forgiveness, how that's impacting them. So I think that would be an awesome show to do. And I think Gail is on the line. Is Gail there, Jeanie? Hey, young lady, do you have any thoughts on the conversation so far?
Absolutely. Yeah, I am on the show. I've been cleaning and I was like, I heard the unmuted sound and I started to take off my gloves and get ready to be introduced.
Great.
Yeah, I have some thoughts. What I heard Dr. Andrecki talk about is the kind of frustration, since I can't pronounce the other word, that I experience when I sponsor people and they're just not getting it. And what I've learned through the Aramaic forgiveness process is that I have goals for these people, and I need to cancel those goals to see what they're not making it or not doing what I'm suggesting that they do is bringing up in me. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up is that I was introduced to Alcoholics Anonymous when I was 21 years old, and I didn't get sober till 32. And it took almost losing my kids to finally get to that place where I was willing to do anything. If my sponsor or some old timer would have suggested that I walk down on the west side of the town that I was living in at the time, which is not a safe place to be, and dribble a basketball naked, I would have done it, because that was the place that I had to get to. I was willing to do anything to stay sober and clean, and to not do the things that I was doing before. And
Gail, it's interesting as you say that, and you talk about the goals you have for the people you work with and how it brings exasperation up for you when they don't complete those goals. And you'll notice, and it's the same principle, and I think this can be a foundation point for it, is that the mind is always driven by goals and its behaviors, in producing its behaviors. And what you just shared with us is that you came across a goal that was stronger than your need for the drug or the alcohol, and that was to have your children. And
yes,
once
absolutely.
that goal became active, that's what switched your brain. And so I think that's an important piece in the process, because until somebody wants it, there's an interesting little story that the Zen teacher tells about the master who's in the middle of the stream, and a chela comes up and says, "Master, how do I get to God?" And the master grabs him by the scruff of the neck and stuffs him under the water and holds him under the water and holds him under the water until he almost isn't moving anymore. And he pulls him back up out of the water. And the guy's like, "Why did you do that?" He says, "Because you got to want God more than you wanted that next breath." And that's the
Absolutely.
whole goal-driven system of the mind.
That is actually in our AA literature. It talks about we have to be willing as only the drowning can be. So that, yeah, perfect. So I get it.
Any thoughts for you, Dr. Tim? Excuse me, got you another thought there. I cut you off. Did you have another thought for us, Gail?
Oh no, I was gonna go someplace else, and then you said something to Dr. Tim, and I lost what I was gonna say. So I'm just being quiet to allow the next piece to come.
Okay, cool.
Well,
my
thought is just a ditto. I do have, in a lot of my talks, I say I have like everybody on the planet, I have the infinite capacity to choose the focus of my conscious awareness. And if the focus of my conscious awareness, as Dr. Andrecki said, is just that in order to survive, I need that next hit, and that's what I keep focusing on. As long as I hold on to that, as long as some part of me believes that's more important than anything else, that's what I'm going to do. And I have to reach a point where I'm willing to look for a different way. And I think you've got an excellent idea that we ask people to call in and say, what was it that motivated you? Your life purpose has to be on task in order for you to focus enough of your energy to pull out of something like an addiction. So that's my input.
For sure. Cool. Stephen, any other thoughts? Are you still with us, Stephen? Oh, okay. I imagine he had to go see a patient. So awesome. Well, I think it's a great idea, and we'll start to work on that, and we'll circulate it and get a really succinct program together that we can do, that we can feature as okay, here's how you get out of your addiction. So powerful. Well, one of the things that happened through this codependence to interdependence week that we just completed, we just finished 9 days yesterday of codependence, and it was kind of fun, as it was in the original addiction shows that we did with Gail, was that Gail, having such a deep knowledge of the AA literature and process, that several times when we'd bring forward a piece from the Aramaic, Gail was able to say, oh, yeah, that's where it is in the literature, as you just did. And to me, it reinforces, and that piece that you gave us, Gail, in the first show that we did, that the original AA steps came out of the Oxford group, which came out of first century studies, which had to be, if not Aramaic, at least close to Aramaic. So it so ties in, and each time you echo one of the Aramaic sentiments with the wording from AA, it's just like, oh, there it is. It's the same stuff. I mean, this AA, in fact, from everything that I'm hearing, is really Yeshua just put into a secular form, and here's how you use the tools. Here's what it's about. So pretty cool.
I agree.
So there were a couple of them this week that you came up with that I thought that were really powerful, and my brain really isn't there right now to remember what they were. Do you have a recollection of the couple of really good pieces that you had?
I do, and you're right. There are a lot of them, and so it's for me, it's a matter of just going back and picking what my gut is telling me would be the most useful. And one of them is in the AA literature. There's a book called The 12 and 12, and this book was written by Bill Wilson, the co-founder of Alcoholics Anonymous, 15 years after he got sober, and it was meant to feature the traditions. The traditions are basically rules, I'm putting those in air quotes, for the group to survive, because if the group doesn't survive, then the individual can't live. And so anyway, the traditions can be kind of dry, and so he decided to write essays based on his experience on the steps as well, and he wrote a lot of really good information about, well, all the steps. But in step 10, one of the things that he features in the beginning of step 10 is that he talks about there's a spiritual axiom, and I never knew what axiom meant. That sounds like a great word. I looked it up. Spiritual truth is what an axiom is. There's a spiritual axiom that whenever I'm disturbed, or whenever I find something to be disturbing, it's because I'm disturbed. And I'm not quoting this exactly. To me, is that if something outside of me is bothering me, then I need to look inside of me. And then it talks a couple paragraphs down, are there any exceptions to this rule? And it says no. And I always used to read that, and it's like, yeah, there's exceptions. How about people getting molested? Or,
Gail?
Yes.
Gail?
Yes.
I wonder if you can maybe get closer to a window and or hold your microphone closer to your mouth, because you're kind of fading in and out. We're losing a few words.
Okay, gotcha. So how much, where do I need to go back to?
No, we didn't lose that much. It was just starting to fade, so your voice sounds stronger there now.
Okay, I'm closer to a window. So anyway, the question for me, there was a question that was posed, is there any exceptions to this? And it says, no, there aren't. And I always tried to, in early sobriety, well, and still today, how about when...
Everybody wants to be the exception, right?
Yes, absolutely, and justifiably so. And there's a lot of talk about what is justifiable anger, and are we justified? And it says that alcoholics can't handle anger, so it's best to get rid of it. But the other piece that I shared... The other piece that I shared as well...
That it's an We got a bit of a crosstalk here, but I was just going to say that, and the reason why nobody can handle anger is because it's another addictive drug, and it needs to be treated, I think, the same way as any other drug. And of course, I remember back in the first Iraqi war, I sat and watched a television program where a priest gets up to justify why, in the name of a man who said, "Love those who hate you, do good to those who abuse you," why you can do justified war. And it's exactly the same game. Well, we've made up a story that allows us to set our truths and our beliefs aside and go kill somebody and use our hostility in a way that's destructive to ourselves and others. So it is, from the lowest to the highest levels, everybody's looking for the exception. But isn't there somewhere that I can unfold my rage on them? Don't they really deserve my rage? And my response to that one is, I watched what they did to you, and it was terrible, and absolutely, I agree with you, they deserve your rage. But the question you really need to ask yourself is not, did they deserve your rage, but do you deserve your rage? Because taking a poison hoping somebody else will die is not a very smart thing to do. So I like that exception idea. They've definitely got that one down pat. Go ahead, Gail.
Absolutely. Something that we were talking about, continuing to do our work. We were discussing that, and I had pulled the parallel.
You're fading in and out again, Gail. I'm not sure what's happening.
Sorry.
You're fading. I wonder if there's another place in the house you could be.
Maybe I need to go outside. Anyway.
Sun's pretty nice. Maybe out on the lanai by the pool.
Oh, but I was in that one room cleaning the bathroom. I think that was one of the reasons why it was still muffled. And I'm going downstairs right now, sidestepping different noises.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So anyway, I guess the next piece was talking about doing our work daily, and that's something else that is. I'm not sure that this is better because we got the air conditioner going, but
yeah, you're actually better.
Oh, I'm better. Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
And step 10 is continue to do personal inventory, and when wrong, promptly admit it. And there's two schools of thought on what step 10 is about. One is about step 10 being 1 through 9 every single day, and then there's another thought that it's 1 through 9 every single day. And I have a tendency to go with the 1 through 9 every single day, because I believe that we need to, when we have conflict or experiencing conflict, that we need to take a step back and remember that we are powerless over blank and that our lives have become unmanageable. So my thinking isn't good about the situation. And then in step 2, doing something different to be restored to sanity. And in step 3, make a decision to finish the rest of the steps. And then, of course, go through the inventory process, talk to somebody else about what you came up with in the inventory process. Look at your character defects and see if you're willing to let go of them in step 6. And step 7, let go of those character defects. And then if you harm somebody, go ahead and make those amends. And so that taking that step back and what I had talked about, restrain a pen and tongue, is when I am experiencing conflict or frustration, to take that step back and take that breath and have restrain a pen and tongue or keyboard or text or whatever, and to not lash out, but to get into a space where I can look at myself.
Right, and just because it kind of blanked the word a little bit, so it's clear for everybody, what you're saying is that you restrain both your pen, offense through writing, and your tongue, offense through speaking, that you hold in that hostility-based comment that you might like to make and do your work first. It was hard to understand the word tongue when you said it there. Like a little
gotcha.
twist in the signal,
Understood.
a little twist in the signal from your phone. But otherwise, you're coming through pretty clearly.
Good deal.
Cool. Awesome. Well, let's see if Dr. Tim has anything to share at this moment to add to the conversation. Or Jeanie, is there anybody else with a hand up at this moment? Tim, you got any thoughts?
Well, just that I'm enjoying it. You know, every time I hear people talk about the 12 steps again, and I encourage people like Gail and my friend Dave to talk more about this, because they're talking about repeating the steps and doing processes daily and going back over steps. And so many of the people that I meet who have not had such success with the 12-step program are people who say, yeah, I've worked the steps. I did those 12 steps, as though they're done with it. And it's similar.
I did that once.
It's similar to when you talk about people say, yeah, I saw that Michael Ryce workshop. Why is this happening to me again? You know, I did some worksheets, so I know that. What else do you have? And I really enjoy the people who've actually had success with a program and a set of tools when they keep saying, I have to use this every day. It's a process that got me where I am, and if I don't keep using it, I'm going to lose the progress I made. And if I don't keep using it, I can't make further progress. So that would be my input.
Right on track. And, of course, the reason for that, Tim, I think goes back to what you started the show out with your comment of familial, that these patterns have been going on for so long, for so many generations, that it does take ongoing repeated work. And I certainly, and I encourage anyone who feels as they engage in this work that it's their work to do, to pick it up and start to teach it. Because I recognize the tendency in myself and the blessing and the gift that it's been to me to teach the work, because it's kept me engaged. And I can see in my own life, if I hadn't become a teacher of it on a full-time basis, I wouldn't have done it every day, and it would have been dead in my life. So if you have difficulty disciplining yourself, if you have difficulty doing the process, then teach it. And to teach it, you'll have to learn it, and you'll get to face. I remember when Jeanie first started doing her first support group, she would pick a topic, she'd watch the video for that week, and she shared every time she'd get to. You want to share that? Every time you get to live it.
Yeah, whenever I had, it's echoing. Yeah, whatever I had planned to speak about or whatever in the group, it never failed that week I would have to actually experience it, and then I could speak about it from a direct experience. And it sure wasn't planned, so sometimes it was like, okay, let's pick something really nice to talk about instead of an issue, but it never seemed to work out that way. But you always learn more by teaching. I found that, I took it tremendously much further in my own process when I began teaching it to others. And so there's a whole section on the website based on experiences that I had and some letters from other people who have done support groups and just some guidelines and tips. So if you don't have a support group in your area, then we encourage you to start one. Dr. Tim's doing 2 a week, and Dr. Andraki's doing 1 a week, and you can just hear the transformations in people's lives that are attending those groups. There was a young lady, Michelle, actually, was here during the intensive, and her support group had kind of seemed to start dwindling down, and so there were 2 people that were from her area in Michigan that were here at the intensive. And so she just, through being here at the intensive and the connection, the reconnection that they made, she's got 2 people that have committed to coming to the support group to continue their process. So you never know whose lives you're going to impact, and especially your own. So we're supposed to be that antenna walking through the world, reflecting love But if we don't do our work, then we're not going to reflect that. We're just going to reflect what's in us. So I encourage anybody and everybody. Yeah.
I join you in that thought, Jeanie, and there's also a section that Jeanie has put on the website, because every once in a while, and it's kind of fits with what you were saying, Tim, is every once in a while we're into people, well, I can't do 5 worksheets today because I don't have 5 issues. I don't have any issues to do worksheets on. And to those folks, I just say I really want to touch the hem of your garment. And so Jeanie's put a whole section on for people who don't have any worksheets to do. And if you work through that section, then talk to us if you still don't have any. So our call-in number is 646-200-4169. If you have a question, a thought, an answer for us, your experience of being involved in the 12 steps, or just recovery from anything, any kind of pain, trauma, addiction, we'd love to hear from you. If there's some way we can support you, if you're stuck in that world, how can we support you? How can we open the space? I just, so often over the years, I see somebody who's in such pain and turmoil, but are able to keep the pain and turmoil hidden from themselves by their addictive substances, who have no clue how miserable they really are because they won't let themselves stop long enough to look. And so misery is a totally unnatural condition for an actual human being. Suffering, pain, and trauma are not part of the process. Disease is not to be designed to be part of the process of a human life. All of those things are part of the process of a non-human life. The familial, the things that come from generation to generation to generation that we refuse to own, that we refuse to deal with, and that we deny and project on someone else. And so if we can support you, oh, great, let's say hello.
All right, I think this might be Miss Michelle. 248, you're on the air.
Hello, Michael, Jeanie, Dr. Tim. It is Michelle. I'm
checking in,
landed in Detroit and waiting for my bags. So I just tuned into the show. I'm not sure what the conversation was. I wanted to let you know I arrived, and thank you for an amazing 9-day intensive in Orlando. This last little piece I heard about.
You just got an honorable mention for the folks that were here from Lansing and that are incorporating into your support group there. So that was where we were. The conversation has been about addiction. Dr. Andraki came on and suggested that perhaps we could create a show that would give the newly introduced, the person who's, perhaps still using whatever it is, alcohol, drugs, or sex, whatever it is, to inspire them to actually start to do something different, give them hope and give them inspiration for moving forward. So that was kind of the conversation. And then Gail shared some of the insights that she shared with us during the intensive based in the Aramaic and the tie-in with the 12 steps. That's kind of where our conversation has been, and we're glad you're there safely and soundly. You're in Detroit, so you've got a short hop over to Lansing then from Detroit, or are you driving from Detroit?
Oh, no, I'm driving from Detroit. I'll probably stop in Ann Arbor and visit my son who's at University of Michigan. Got to put a plug for the Boy Wonder, straight A, airline staring, and varsity national status athlete. So, addiction. I'm a psychologist in private practice and work with a lot of people in addiction. I have certification in that area, and I've started to say for myself when people ask me as prospective patients and interviewing me, that I'll answer their question about recovery, that I'm in recovery from fear and hostility. But more specifically, like on a physical level, I just wanted to share how powerful I think my experience over the last week of 10 days, vomiting on and off, bedridden for more hours than not, and having to go through that experience without my normal vices that I would use at home. Mostly probably prescription Zofran medicine to curb nausea, popsicles, and, dyes and like frozen treats to suck on to soothe myself, and, gallons of Sprite and Vernors. Vernors is a Detroit pop, by the way. It's made as a ginger ale, only available in Detroit. But anyways.
Right. Familiar with it.
So, I'm with the pain on between a 7 and a 10, depending on what part of the moment I was in, and really having a hot, like a heating bed, San Pellegrino, and Jeanie's miraculous frozen blueberries. That was a brilliant suggestion, and it did the trick. And so I know that in those weak moments, I'm not practiced or integrated enough to reliably, consistently, committedly follow the plan, because I lose sight that I'm being guided, or I lose sight that, in the next moment there might be relief. And so it was really great just to be surrounded with love and people supporting me. Michael, you did an amazing job finding my pressure points on the reflexology on my feet. When you torqued on that, it was probably just a whisper of air. It felt like red hot. And so it was just really nice, experiential to get that I can do that. I can do that for myself next time it comes up. And it's a corollary. It doesn't have to be in bed vomiting. It could be, wanting to rage at my office manager because of something my biller did. And it was just a really good, profound reset for me.
Awesome. And you might want to share the evening when you walk down to your car, and this is, to me, like one of the delicious gifts that we get when we do our work, the opening that happened for you.
Okay, sure. There's 5 minutes. I'll make it succinct. So, Dr. Tim, we talk all the time about brain cells and what you have brain cells for and what you don't have brain cells for. And you have some good experience with Midwest winters. So I've got a lot of brain cells for snow, all the different kind of snow, just like an Eskimo. So I'm finishing the evening, and I have to walk from the home we're staying at to the main clubhouse. And I knew that in Detroit it had gotten colder and it was snowing. That was probably in the back of my mind. But the weather in Florida, although when I got there it was 76, this particular day it had been dropping and dropping and dropping. And, there were some little sarcastic remarks about possibly, the weather in Florida being snow. So I'm walking to the front gate, and there's lamp lighting, street lighting, that kind of has a dusky look to it. So I'm walking, I've got my hoodie on and hands in my pockets to brace from the cold, because it is getting colder, and I'm walking there. And all of a sudden, peripherally, I see snow, and I'm like, oh, my God, no way, it is snowing here. Holy, Batman. So I don't feel the wetness melting on my face, though. So then I'm like, okay, those brain cells don't fit this experience. What else? And I come up with, that pollen, that those Florida trees, they give off that like linty stuff, and then it flies, and it kind of in there, it looks like snow. And then I'm looking on the ground, given the volume I'm perceiving, I'm like, but there's nothing landed on the ground. There's like no dust swirls or any other evidence of accumulation once this pollen's dropping. So that was out. So I stopped in kind of a dumbfounded way, like what is going on? And at the same time, the snow stopped. And I was like, what? So I took some more steps, and the snow started again. And I looked, and I was so, surprised that it turned on again, so I stopped, and it turned off. So then I started messing around with it, and I started to figure out it was neat. I could see all the energy in my field, like in my aura, all around me and with me, like walking forward. I don't know why I couldn't perceive it when I stopped walking, but when I looked down in my solar plexus area, I could distinctly see, because I walked really, really slow. If I walked slow, I could catch more. If I stopped, it would stop. So I walked really, really slow, and sure enough, it was rotating in a counterclockwise motion. All the little particles were all in sync, spattered and random, but all in sync, all rotating in the same way. And I pretty much collapsed into tears and had presence of mind to breathe and cried and breathed the rest of the way to my car. Came back, picked up Ari, and said, "You're not going to believe this." And so it was...
As you, Michelle,
yeah.
as you were able to tap into that and realize what was going on, and we've only got about a minute or so to go, but what was the energetic or emotional state that you were able to feel?
Relief. Like that any doubt that I ever had or the skeptic in my mind, it was like the beautiful validation that keep doing what you're doing. Here's a prize. Here's a trinket. Here's a nugget. There's more, but you're doing good so far. So enjoy.
Yeah, that's it exactly. We get that bright light experience that Gail talked about in the first AA session, and it sounds like you got it on the visual level, which we often talk about. If you could see what was standing in front of you, you'd see this whirring mass of electrons, protons, and neutrons, and what comes with it is just this awesome presence of love. So sweet.
Mm-hmm. So I hear people talk about it, and I want to believe them, but unless it's my own experience in me, it wasn't really as true. And so that was the miracle and the ecstasy. And I've actually had a lot of spontaneous tears today, and just a pure joy and gratitude. The ecstasy after the laundry. There's the ecstasy. So very good. I feel my tooth bad. I'm gonna. Okay, I will check with y'all later.
Travel blessings.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.